Hi there everyone and welcome to Mirror World News. Today we're going to be covering all the ins and outs of editing. Hi there everybody, we are here with Justine, Dowsett from Mirror World Publishing, and we're going to be talking today about editing. And there's a lot to cover today, so stay with us through this. If you want to rewatch parts of it to kind of let it sink in, definitely do that.
Just like editing.
That's the joke. Anyway, so let's say for example, a writer has now finished their first draft. They go, okay, as they're done, hit the save button, they're good. Now what do they got to do?
Now you edit.
Okay, everybody, thank you so much for joining us today.
They call it a first draft for a reason. You're now going to go into your second draft, and there will probably be many drafts before you're done. But a lot of advice says that you should take that manuscript, put it in a drawer, forget about it, and leave it alone for at least a few weeks or a month, and then go back to it because you're going to be able to have fresh eyes doing that. I don't find that works for me personally. So I have a different experience with it. When I'm done, I will take a breather, I will take a few days off. But I want to dive right back into it because the whole way along while I've been writing, I've been making notes about what works and what doesn't, what I have to go back and fix, and I'm eager to get to it. So I'm going to start over. I'm going to read through the entire book, and I'm going to make note of what works, what doesn't. I'm going to fix as many things as I can. In that first pass, I'm usually looking for style. I'm looking for content, things that maybe don't make sense, or descriptions that aren't there, that sort of thing. And I'm looking for errors. So that's a lot to do in one pass, but I'm going to do as best as I can because I'm working on my own book. I might read it again and just if I think I missed anything. I'm also going to look for any of my own personal weaknesses, which I will know from past experiences. Now, an editor isn't going to know to look for those things, but because you know yourself, you're going to know what you're good at and what you're not good at. In my case, it's forgetting to put in descriptions of characters and settings because I know them so well in my head that I forget to put them on the paper.
Mine is using commas everywhere.
There you go.
Everywhere. And also consistency is key too. Make sure that Jack stays Jack through the whole script and doesn't turn into Joan or John halfway through. I've actually read books where I've seen that happen.
Yeah.
And it's very, very strange.
Yeah. Pacing is another good one to keep an eye out for. That's how quickly things move. Also, if you're missing exposition or if you've got too much exposition, if it drags in spots. So do your best on that.
Mm-hmm. Now, you mentioned that you do your editing yourself. Now, should you edit yourself or should you have someone else do it? Or is it different between the first run through and the second run through? Like, how does that function?
Again, that's up to preference, but I say both. Definitely both. So for me, I'm going to go through it first by myself, and I'm going to do that until I'm satisfied with it, because I don't want anyone else to see it until I'm comfortable saying that this is my best work. So once I've done that, then I'm going to give it to someone else to look over. You should probably get really used to basically to rewriting. So you should edit part of it yourself because you should be used to fixing your own mistakes. Because all an editor is going to do, especially a content editor, which we can talk more about the types of editors in a minute, but they're going to point out what's wrong. You still have to fix it. They're not going to tell you, or at least they shouldn't tell you how to make it better. They might give you some suggestions, but you're going to have to go back and rewrite those parts.
Right. Exactly. Yeah. Now, though you say that, wait until you get it good enough to send to someone else, right. There is a danger, of course, in waiting too long.
Right. You don't want to work it to death and have it become boring, or just, if you look at it too much, you're going to get to the point where you can't see your own mistakes anymore. If you've done that, maybe it's time to have someone else look at it too.
Yeah. If you look at it and you go through the whole thing and you've done your second edit yourself, sometimes even a third one yourself, and you look at it and you're like, well, I know I can find more in here. I'll go through it again. Give it to someone else. Yeah. Let them find it, and they'll find things that you've never even thought of. So, that being said, how many times should a manuscript be edited, and what should the editor, either yourself or the others, what should they be looking for?
Okay. Well, there's different rounds of editing, and the way that we do it at the publishing house is very specific. We'll go through these things in order. So the first time that the book has gone through, this is after you've had a good look at it. This is when it goes
So you are the first person to look at it. That's stage number one.
Yes. So the first pass of an editor, be this a professional or just a friend or someone you've given it to, is to look for content. So that person is going to look for inconsistencies in the plot. So anytime you've made a mistake or things that aren't clear, things that don't make sense to them. I usually say that this round doesn't need to be done by a professional. It mostly needs to be done by just someone who's a good reader. So someone who's used to reading stories and can see what works and what doesn't. So they're going to give you feedback on content. The next round is for style, and this is specifically for writing. So this is how your sentences flow, if your word choice makes sense, if the grammar works in it, the sentences flow easily from one to another. You can also look at the pacing in this one as well, with the exposition, the strength of your opening and your ending, which we always talk about. And then the last pass should be the line edit. Now the line edit is looking at each line individually, each word, each sentence, and making sure there are absolutely no typos, no comma errors, no grammatical errors, and all the punctuation is perfect. So this would be the last round that a book's going to go through before it would presumably either hit the shelves or before it goes to the publisher, before it moves on to the next step.
That's a lot of work. There's a lot to be an editor.
Yeah.
So anybody who wants to be an editor out there.
Well, that being said, there's different types of editors. So you do have editors who specialize in various areas. You have editors who specialize in content, editors who specialize in style, and editors who specialize in the line edit. So if you are hiring a professional, make sure that you know what you're hiring them to do.
Yes.
Yes. Again, you don't need to hire a professional in every single case, but you need to know what you're hiring them to look at.
Okay, now, besides the author and besides the editors to a point, who else should be looking at that manuscript?
For myself, as I said, I look at it the first time. Then I'm going to give it to someone I trust. So that can either be a family member or a close friend or just maybe a relative or someone that you know that is good in English or is a good reader.
And is honest.
And is honest, yeah. The trust is because you're giving somebody something that you've worked on that you're not maybe quite ready to show to the public, but you need an opinion on it. So you need that person who's going to give you the honest truth, but who's going to do it in a way that's not going to crush your little writing spirit.
It's not going to smack your muse down, yeah.
After that, I would give it to a set of beta readers. Now, we've talked about beta readers in another video.
Yeah.
It can be from one person to 5 or more people, however many you want to, keep track of. But give it to some beta readers, have them read it for you, again, see what works and what doesn't. At this point, you're still looking at content. After that, you can give it to, again, try to find someone who will do it for free if you can. If you have a teacher, a mentor, a relative, a friend, someone who's, again, really good with English, or maybe a professional is willing to do it for you on the side or cheaply, that's your best option at this point, because a professional editor hopefully will look at it. If you're going the publishing route, if you're going the self-publishing route, at some point you want to hire an expert. You want to hire a professional if you can before that book hits the shelf, so you don't want any errors in it. And then lastly, a professional or semi-professional should take a look through it. Yeah.
And you've had a lot of experience. You yourself have written a series of a bunch of books.
Yeah, my 8th one will come out sometime next year.
Yeah. And you follow this through your books as well.
Yes.
Yeah. So it's coming from experience about everything it needs to do. Now there is one more thing I just wanted to mention really quickly with editing itself. Don't get bogged down while you're writing in the editing of what you're doing. Because I know I've got that advice from a bunch of people. You would agree with that?
Yeah, for sure. Your first draft is a first draft for a reason. Now, for me, I don't want to just rush through it because I do write on the seat of my pants. I'm not a planner. So for me, I do need to edit a little bit as I go, but just to make sure that I don't make any mistakes that are too big to fix or that might set the plot off course. So editing a little bit as you go is okay, but never go back. Unless something doesn't work and you've hit a wall and you have to go back and change something in order to make the story move forward, never stop and go back and rework what you've done. You're going to save that for when you're done your first draft.
Yeah, because you'll hear horror stories of people that never get out of chapter 4.
Yeah.
They're stuck because they figure that they want to make that perfect, so they have that as a right. They want to have other people read it, make sure it sounds good.
Once you start critiquing yourself, you're now getting into the editing process and your brain shuts off from the writing process and goes to that. And it's 2 different jobs. You can't do both at once. So that's a big problem. Also, it's just going to make you slower. It might start making you think negatively about your own work if you're seeing the mistakes over seeing what works. So I would save the editing till the end.
Yeah, I agree. Just write. Let the muse go on the page, and then when you're done, take a little bit of breather.
Yeah.
You have a coffee, go watch a movie or something, and then
and that the length
back
of that
at it.
breather will depend on how much distance you need to get from that piece
Yeah.
of work to look at it.
yeah, if it's 8 months of your life, it's kind of just been bogged down, and you're like, oh God, no. And then by the time you're done of it, put it in a drawer, let it go for a week,
Right.
and then go back to the beginning fresh, and it's amazing.
Yeah, you can always put it aside too and work on a different writing project, and then when you're done that writing project, go and edit the first one, and then you get a cycle going. That's a good way of spacing them out.
Excellent. Well, thank you so much for your assistance in editing. I know editing is it's a huge topic, and there's a lot to talk about it, just all over the place. We'll probably do even another one on more finite parts of editing as we go through. But
There you go, just edited yourself.
there you go. So we just wanted you guys to have a little bit of advice on editing and what to go through. So thank you all very much for watching. Thank you so much for coming to talk to us again today.
Thank you for having me.
Make sure to like and subscribe, and we'll keep bringing you these videos. And thank you so much, and keep writing.